Hello, my name's Richard Eastwood. I'm the Managing Director of Gearbox Sound and Vision and Cream Recording Studios, and this is my technical manager, Jan, who's in charge of all things technical. Welcome to Cream. Cream is a newly built commercial recording studio specialising in high-end music recording with a slight emphasis on recording music for film. In the studio here we have a brand new solid state Logic 72 channel duality console. The duality is the latest generation console from solid state Logic, kind of known as the kind of greatest hits, if you like. It's been remodeled on all the classic SSLs of past generations, and SSL have essentially taken all the good bits out of all previous generation consoles, some from the E and some from the G series. ATC monitoring in here is custom built. We have full 5.1 surround system with 300s in the left, centre, right, and 150s in the rear, and they're all powered by ATC amplification. We have a range of what can only really be called classic and vintage outboard equipment. Everything from AMS reverbs to Pultecs and black fronted Uris, and behind Jan there's even a Fairchild 670.
We chose the duality because it's probably the most modern way of working that's available on an analog console, given that it's got DAW control. We can control Pro Tools channels up to 32 channels on any given buckets on the console. So what we really wanted was an analog desk, but we also wanted to be able to do all the Pro Tools control that you'd expect to do nowadays, and not necessarily mix with the mouse, which is the main flaw of working with DAWs, really. So the first thing with the duality is it doesn't have a back end. It's what everything you see here is the console. So it's great in terms of ergonomics, where everything's there and within reach, and we don't have to worry about external power supplies and things like that. The layout is a lot more modern as well, in the sense that you have the TFT displays, and there's a lot of kind of automated signal path changes that you can do on the desk, which is really good as well. It's what you call this split signal path architecture, which means that we can flick from listening to microphone inputs or Pro Tools monitoring, and we can also uniquely move any sort of onboard EQ, dynamics and gates to either path, which is something that you've not been able to do on any other console up till now. The console itself, the mic pre is derived from the 9000, so it's a very clean mic preamp. So when you're doing sort of orchestral recording, it's ideally suited for that, because it's got a very high headroom, and it's also very clean. But we've also got the option of using on this VHD pre, which adds like harmonic distortion. So music people tend to like that because they can distort sounds or add warmth to a sound directly from the console signal path. You could think of it as like an overdrive channel. The EQ is derived from the G series and E series, so again another sort of modern feature that you don't get on other consoles is the ability to have two different EQs. The E series being, what it is, very precise, very clean, and the G series being more of a sort of fat musical sounding EQ. So the combination of the two is really good, and it adds a lot of flexibility. there's a lot of sort of new features that don't exist on other consoles that are quite exciting. The ability to change channel routing from the center section without having to go to a physical channel and edit it, and the ability to make global routing commands from the center section again is something that's pretty great and pretty new. Obviously, automation and total recall is as you'd expect. The automation is, if you're used to the G series, you'll be at home with it in minutes. The total recall, the same, similar to flying faders, or as you'd expect. So it's like really a combination of these sort of old school analog mixed with the routing and ergonomics of the digital console almost. And if you add on top of that the Pro Tools control, it's a no-brainer really. It's just really easy to work with. Worth mentioning as well, it's got full surround panning, so you can mix fully in surround without having to worry about buses and doing stems and things like that. Well, sorry, you still have to do that, but it's quite unusual to have a fully featured 5.1 pan on an analog console, certainly to that extent. With bass management, we have bass management on the center section as well, which links up to our monitors. Underneath the 300s is a pair of subwoofers as well, which we can control from here on off. So it gives us different monitoring flavors as well as programmable setups for different purposes. So if we're mixing for film, we might have a different setup from when we're mixing for music. It's perhaps cleaner than the G series, given that a lot of the internal structure is derived from the 9000. Uniquely, this doesn't have any wiring inside whatsoever, so it's all based on card architecture. So you're never going to get things like dry joints or wires inside that go wrong. Because there's no sort of wires inside, it makes the signal path very pure and hopefully very reliable.
Okay, so I'd like to give you a guided tour of our outboard equipment. Starting on the right here, we have a much sought after Fairchild 670. Above that, a couple of Focusrite Blue ISA 215 mic pre's. This rack here, a Focusrite Red 2 EQ, TubeTech LCA 2B and EQ 1A equalizer, Summit DCL 200 dual compressor limiter, a pair of DBX 160 VU compressors, Teletronics leveling amp at the top here. We have a Manley stereo variable MU limiter compressor, and I'm very pleased to say that we managed to find a couple of vintage Paultec EQP 1A3 EQs, two black fronted Uris and a couple of silver Uri 1176 LNs. My personal favourites are the EQP 1A3s. It has to be said that they're absolutely to die for. Stick a bass kick drum on there or some vocals or guitars or anything, to be honest with you, they're just absolutely killer.
Okay, on the right hand side of the desk we have some more outboard. We have a subharmonic synth, which is mostly used for film people to sort of enhance the LFE. We've got an AMS reverb, that's a classic, you've got to have one really, and as well as an AMS delay. Rather unusually, we've got a Sony DRE reverb, which is like a sampling reverb, which most people use, things like Altiverb or TL Space. This is kind of the ancestor of that. It's a very good sounding sampling reverb where impulse responses get loaded in. It sounds very good. We have a couple of Eventide units which get a lot of use as well. We're particularly fond of Eventide stuff, at least I am. Neve 33609s, another sort of must-have standard. We can also link them together to create one big surround compressor. We have a SSL surround compressor, which is kind of unusual in the sense that you have full surround control of the compression, which is one step further than having 3 Neves together. Distressor, must have. If you want to kick the crap out of something, use a distressor, works every time. Transient designers, we put these in because a lot of people bring in things they recorded at home or things that have been poorly recorded, and quite often they need sort of beefing up. Usually it's over compressed, and this kind of undoes compression. It's an interesting effect. Drama dual gate, we've got gates on the console, but sometimes you need more control than that, so you use the Drama gate. We have the JL Cooper MLA10s. They're used to control the console in terms of the Pro Tools DAW. What they do is they effectively extend the MIDI beyond the sort of 9.5 meter limit of MIDI, so that we can connect the desk to our Pro Tools downstairs. Yeah, so the patch bay is state of the art. Every single connector hole on every single piece of kit can be found there, and we can patch anything to everything. Everything's been done with very high quality Van Damme cable, and in terms of networking, it's all done over Cat6 for a bit of future proofing. We have the ability to connect various bolt-on desks onto the existing Duality, or indeed we have the ability to connect things like Digidesign Xmon if you want to have, say, a D-command or a D-control surface in there. MIDI's taken care of. If anyone wants to bring a synth or a keyboard, you can just plug straight in to either the Pro Tools or the desk. And finally we have our camera control system, which allows us to decide what camera throughout the studio we want to look at. We can look at various different cameras, or we can even look at several cameras together if we want to.
As you can see by now, we have a very comprehensive range of microphone preamps. Obviously every single channel on the console has a mic pre. We have an extensive range of external mic pre units, but to provide that extra degree of flexibility, we have a rack of Neve 1081Rs. The 1081Rs are PC controllable in terms of gain, so it just gives you that extra bit of flexibility.
Okay, so we're sat in the Cream live room at the moment, in sort of the middle of the session. The whole idea of the Cream live room was that a lot of people were after a medium-sized live room with a high ceiling, and what we set out to achieve was exactly that. So the Cream live room is about 78 square meters, but we enjoy a very high ceiling in comparison to its surface area. So the sound in there is not too live, not too dead, and it's just about right for a lot of the music that's getting recorded at the moment, particularly sort of small orchestral string quartets and things like that. Really like the sound in here because of the shape of the room, really. This room was, as well as the rest of the studio, was designed by Roger Darcy at Recording Architecture, and he's done a great job. It's got, we can modify the acoustics as well, which is really nice. We've got these panels up on the ceiling, which can be taken up or down to modify the reverb times and generally change the acoustic in the room. We've got a what we call the drum booth, which is where the piano lives when it's not out here, which can be separated via a large glass window, so we can have a drummer in there in isolation or various other instruments in isolation. A lot of the time the piano lives in there. We've got the Bissendorfer from the Air Studios in Oxford Street. It's an Imperial Grand, which I'm sure you'll see, which sounds very nice indeed. Yeah, I mean the sound in there is really nice. Everyone who's been in there has said it sounds fantastic. We've also got a balcony area upstairs, which you'll see, which can either be used as isolation for amplifiers and things, or if there's a surplus of musicians, more musicians can go up on the balcony. It's pretty, in terms of the networking in the room, I think we've really gone to town in the general sort of communications and networking in the studio. So there's all the sort of tie lines you could possibly need. In terms of talk back, listen back, we're using sort of state-of-the-art trilogy systems and Aviom systems just to make the whole recording experience more enjoyable. I mean, these sort of standard in the industry now in a sort of high-end recording. So people who've recorded here have said it's pretty smooth going in terms of cues and listen back, talk back, things like that. So the balcony area connects to the floor via this spiral staircase here, which you'll see, I'm sure, and leads to the control room, which is at the back of the building. So worth noting that in the white rooms, you've also got white rooms as well, which are the production suites that are adjacent to this live area. We've networked the white rooms to this room as well, which means that any client in the white rooms can use this room without any fuss at all, which is great really, because people in the production room wants to do a piano overdub, say, wants to use the Bösendorfer or whatever they want to do, they can do that just from their own room, so they don't have to actually use the studio control room, which means the studio control room can be used for a mix while someone else is recording in here, etc., etc. So it's very flexible in terms of what it can do. So one other thing that makes this place unique, other than the shape and size of the room, is the fact that it's part of Gearbox, and it's unique in the sense that it's got a hire company on site, and obviously Gearbox has vast resources in terms of equipment, mics, peripherals, outboard, you name it. A lot of the equipment that's in Cream is actually dedicated to Cream, so we've went out and bought a lot of equipment, old and new, vintage items, new sort of must-have bits of kit. But obviously, whenever we're short of something, we can always rely on the hire department to have whatever piece of equipment is needed. So I think that's quite unique, certainly in the UK, I'd say. We've got a very good selection of vintage Neumann mics, M49s, U67s, etc. And we went out and bought a lot of new microphones, Neumann, Schrups, anything you'd expect in a sort of world-class studio.
Okay, welcome to our lounge area. This is another zone within the Cream complex. Really, this is just a kind of chill out area for people to relax, get out the control room environment, or they've done their session, and just a chance to grab a fresh coffee, have a go on the old PlayStation 3. We've got Freeview here, DVD, plasma, that kind of thing. We also have a kitchen which is manned by our resident cook, Liz. If you want a good hearty meal at good rates, come and eat at Cream.